educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for coming on today and joining us today. I have a special guest, and the conversation we're going to have today is a little different than others or than most. Our audience is that we're gearing towards might be a little younger than you anticipate, but we'll get there in a minute. He has a mind of an entrepreneur and the soul of a teacher. He's an author, executive, angel investor, and lifelong student of markets. His career failed his way through process engineering, operations, business management, M&A, and corporate strategy, finally failing big enough to exit. He now teaches kids the lowdown on business and entrepreneurship, hoping they will fail bigger and sooner. Middle school MBA has pioneered this space, learning to teach the most advanced concepts to the youngest kids in a way that fascinates and excites them. It is the future of business and economics for kids, also for us adults. So I just want y'all to understand that, as I said to you, our audience might be just a little younger. So if you can refer this to your elementary school, middle school, high school individuals, because I'm guaranteed you're going to learn something today. I thank you all very much for listening today. John, thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you, man. It's great to be here with you.
Sure. So, John, first of all, why are you concerned about talking to kids and learning advanced economics?
Well, because in the same way that, we teach kids astronomy so that they understand that the Earth goes around the sun and what the solar system looks like, instead of thinking that the world is flat and that the sun goes around the Earth. I mean, you could live your whole life without understanding the difference, probably, but it's far better if you grasp the big picture, because then you can just do so much more with it. And that's what economics is. Economics is the big picture on how the commercial world works. So whether you're a business owner or a consumer, or if whatever you're doing, to understand, we all make hundreds or thousands of commercial transactions every year. And when you understand the whole picture, you just have an advantage over everybody else.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, okay.
So in the past, this field used to be just inaccessible outside of at least college and often grad school, because it's just a murky, difficult, weird thing to try to understand. But what we've done is we've found how to teach it really, really young. So we've made it simple and clear and intuitive. And so for both adults and kids, this is no longer inaccessible. This is something that's totally within your grasp. So since you can, and since it's so helpful in your life, it's something that every kid should do.
So when we think about economics, some of us are just worried about balancing the checkbook. I'm sorry, I don't know how many of us do that today, but that concept is still important today, because you need to understand your credit card balances. You need to understand, anything from your mortgage and those interest rates and car loans, so we need to understand it in totality. And those type of things I know for myself. Now, I'm 48. I'll be 48 in a week. So some of those things I did not learn to its fullest extent until 12th grade. Now, when my kids have gone to school, they didn't touch it at all. So I think that there's a real big piece that's missing today of understanding what is economics and how, as you stated, how does it affect our everyday life?
Yeah, and this is it's common for people to think of anything that has to do with money as being economics.
Hmm.
Personal finance is like you get a paycheck and you figure out what to do with the paycheck. How much
Hmm.
for my rent? How much for my car? How much for eating? How much do I save? How much for insurance? Whatever.
Hmm.
That's personal finance. That's you dealing with the commercial world, and getting your paycheck and spending your paycheck or allocating your paycheck some particular way.
Hmm.
Economics is a much bigger thing than that.
Hmm.
Economics encompasses personal finance, but with underneath economics, you've got personal finance, which is what we just talked about. Then
Hmm.
you've got business, which is how do I make my P&L healthy, my profit and loss statement? What does it take
Hmm.
for me to keep this thing rolling? And that involves people and technology and
Hmm.
many many things, mostly fairly concrete things
Hmm.
when we're talking about business. And then within business, you've got entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a very special time in the life of a business. It's either when the
Hmm.
business is just starting up or when you're taking a business and changing it to a very new direction.
Hmm.
Um, and so entrepreneurship is part of business. Business and entrepreneurship and personal finance are part of economics.
Hmm.
Economics is the biggest, broadest understanding, and economics tends to be a bit more abstract.
Hmm.
Uh, Business is sort of applied economics.
Hmm.
So when you sort of in the same way that engineering is applied physics, physics
Hmm.
is the broadest field, and then within this you have astronomy and engineering and chemistry, and so you might be mixing a couple of chemicals together in a laboratory, and you might understand this specific reaction,
Hmm.
but understanding physics, you understand how reactions fit with the entire world. So
Hmm.
it's a bigger concept, economics is.
Hmm.
And it allows you to step into, in personal finance, you'll hear things like, oh, you shouldn't go into debt and, that sort of thing. In economics, you're, you're like, well, let me decide which sort of debt I might go into and which
Hmm.
debts I should avoid, and at what interest rate is that problematic versus
Hmm.
the other things I could do, opportunity costs
Hmm.
for those funds. So it's a it's a better, broader look at everything that you do. And so within this, since we do we call it an MBA. So it's like a master's of business administration. We have
Hmm.
economics, business, and entrepreneurship all integrated together.
Hmm.
And so tons of practical business things like negotiating.
Hmm.
We negotiate all the time. If you're buying a car, if you're buying a house,
Hmm.
um, if you go to the grocery store and you look at the bananas on the shelf, they have a price on them.
Hmm.
That's also a negotiation.
Hmm.
It's we call that take it or leave it, right?
Hmm. Right.
But if you don't take it, the the store comes back next day and says, "Hey, sale on sale,
Hmm.
5% off." They're negotiating with you,
Hmm.
and if you understand what's going on there, it just helps you be a better consumer.
Hmm.
We want our students when they walk into a store, we don't want them to see the merchandise and the salespeople.
Hmm.
We want them to look past all that and see the business strategy. What are these guys trying to do? And what's their marketing approach? And
Hmm.
so it's a different way of looking at the world.
Hmm. Now, since you talk about negotiating, one, I don't know if I want my kids negotiating because I learn that skill because they might try to negotiate chores and everything else with me, you know.
Let me tell you, that's the one complaint we've gotten from parents. They
Really?
say, could you make them a little less good at negotiating? And what I say to them is step up your game.
Right.
You need to learn your side of the negotiation
Hmm.
and be able to operate, on the same level that they do. And that ends up with a better relationship, for the both of you. So and really the parent side of the negotiation
Hmm.
can certainly be it's because I'm the parent, I'm paying for everything, and we're going to do it like I say.
Right,
You know,
right.
that's there's nothing wrong with coming to there. You know, you don't have to be intimidated by a bunch of counter offers
Right.
or whatever. You can just say this. Okay, this is my bottom line, and this is what we're
Mhm,
doing. But it's great to have that sort of open line of communication
mhm,
with your kids.
mhm. And that's
So
one of the things I was going to say. I think that's one of the keys, understanding how to negotiate, because now you understand the power of communication, explaining, looking things all the way through, problem solving. There are so many skills just from that space of negotiation that we as a society probably have lost to some degree.
as a society, Americans don't negotiate. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's just very uncommon for us culturally.
Mm-hmm.
But in the rest of the world, they do. In the rest of the world, it's very common to negotiate. And what the the toughest part for many people is because we have this cultural, not quite a taboo,
Mm-hmm.
but close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People are uncomfortable with it. They don't know how to get started. You know,
Mm-hmm.
once and so you often just have you're just at loggerheads. You can't progress.
Mm-hmm.
You're where you are and I'm where I am, and that's that. You know, we
Right.
can't. But but when you learn how to make an offer that you're pretty sure isn't going to be accepted, it's only an opener. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to set the table here,
Right.
and you're able to do that in a way that doesn't offend the other party or chase
Mm-hmm.
them away. Now you've got a conversation started.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be a negotiation about what movie to see or, any number of things.
Right.
We had a recent graduate, we had a graduate from a past graduate who recently negotiated her starting salary
Mm-hmm.
up $8,000 from what they offered.
Nice.
And uh, so she used the things that we taught her, and she simply she told me about it afterwards. She said, I analyzed their situation and my situation,
Mm-hmm.
and then I made my case with a smile, a
Mm-hmm.
nice friendly smile. Look, here's what I'm thinking, and without declining the offer. So she kept the offer on the table so that she could accept it,
Mm-hmm.
even if they said they weren't going to give her more.
Mm-hmm.
She made the case and said, can't you do a little better?
Mm-hmm.
They turned around in 5 minutes and gave her another $8,000. And the other cool thing about this is not only did she pick up $8,000,
Mm-hmm.
but the employer said to themselves, "Wow, this is a better employee than we thought.
Mm-hmm.
They see her as more valuable than they saw her before." So
Hmm.
they both actually came out happier.
So one of the things that I'm hearing, that I'm pulling from what you're talking about, just from this example from this individual, they understood their value because they started this negotiation. They started, or they understand the value of communication. They understood what they brought to the table to this organization. They also understood or did their research based off of this organization can give me a little bit more money, or this position at this other company, depending on how they did their research, this position over here is making this amount of money. Can't you do a little bit better? So I think those are some of the things that we don't understand when we negotiate. Hey, what is the industry talking about? What are your competitors talking about? And then what I bring to the table that can take you over the hump.
Exactly right. And like you said before, there's so many different aspects to this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she she approached this negotiation, set it up so that she couldn't lose. Right, the
Mm-hmm.
worst they could say was no, and she would still have this job that she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we teach them that you always have a next best option to fall back on. So in this case, their initial offer was her next best option, and
Mm-hmm.
so she had that in her pocket. But when you think in terms of what's my next best option and who's responsible for my next best option, guess what? It's me.
Mm-hmm.
And and your next best option comes from how much work did you do before this negotiation
Mm-hmm.
to set yourself up as a valuable person.
Hmm.
And then once you complete this negotiation, that's your next best option for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to any job, you might say, well, this isn't quite the job I want, but this is a good next best option for me to have 6 months from now when I pitch to the next job that I really do want.
Right.
And so you get a mindset of all of these things are chess pieces on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a bad option. There's just your best option, and what is the next option you can go for. So
Wow.
it's a different way to think about your career and your job path and how you manage your life.
John, so I'm thinking about myself as you're talking, right? When I first went into corporate America, I went right into working right after high school. So I went straight from high school working for a insurance company within the city of Philadelphia. And so I did not understand this part of negotiation.
Right.
But I think the key point of this is of not just negotiation, but and or understanding my value. But I also didn't understand how to bet on myself. Because a lot of times we don't know how to do that. We don't know these very simple things of communication, which helps us out in economics. Because all of it is communication, and sometimes we don't understand that crucial part.
No, so true. And just the basic skill of being able to open the door,
Mm-hmm.
and just suggest, hey, wouldn't it be better if we did this? Or, hey, would you like to go see a movie tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Would you? I mean, if you're asking somebody on a date,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to make the suggestion, make an offer, and know that if they refuse you, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
We
Right.
we set up many of our negotiations so that they can't succeed.
Mm-hmm.
One party's the next best options don't overlap, and so they fail
Mm-hmm.
because most negotiations do fail,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not the end of the world. I mean, I tell kids when you go to McDonald's and they say, okay, that'll be $7.95,
Mm-hmm.
just go, well, hey, would you take $6.50 instead? I mean, they're going to tell you no,
Right.
right? You
Right.
know that. And you know why? Because that person at the counter doesn't have the authority to negotiate the price.
Mm-hmm.
Number
Mm-hmm.
one. Number two, you already agreed to it because it's posted up on the
Right.
sandwich board, right? So
Right.
you've agreed to that price already. But by doing that,
Mm-hmm.
it's great practice of making an offer, getting told no, and not being deflated. It's like it's fine,
Right.
and so just being able to make an offer that doesn't offend somebody
Mm-hmm.
and open that door and see where it goes is just so important throughout your life in so many ways.
So, as you you mentioned going to McDonald's trying to negotiate, this Big Mac, right? But in that, up front that most times you're going to fail in that type of negotiation. In your bio, you talked about how you fail at multiple things to land where you are today. Unfortunately, and I'm a former youth coach for basketball and football, and in that space, second place still got a trophy. Second place was still celebrated. We don't understand the value of failing, picking yourself back up to move to the next thing. So that's what, as you just stated, in negotiation, that's what happens often than not.
Yes, yes, and it's it's so important. It's been said so many ways. It's not whether you get knocked down; it's whether or not you get back up.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I think sports is a terrific place to learn that lesson.
Mm-hmm.
In boxing, is get on your feet, get on your feet, get on your feet.
Right.
Get off the mat. And the more times you experience that, the more times you get knocked down and you get back up,
Mm-hmm.
the more that just becomes your outlook on life.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't I mean, it always hurts. You know, you don't want to take one on the jaw, and
Right.
you don't want to get told no. You don't want doors slammed in your face, but it
Right.
happens. And
Hmm.
to be able to know this is going to happen, and I don't care. I'm gonna do it 10 times. I'm gonna do it 50 times
Right.
until I run across the situation where everything fits. I'm gonna learn from each failure,
Hmm.
and then when the situation that fits, that's where I can bring my experience of all the failures and see how to navigate my way through this particular situation,
Hmm.
those feel effortless. It just
Hmm.
falls into place. And you feel like, wow, I'm so lucky. You're not lucky, right?
Right.
It's the old saying that the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Hmm.
And it's so we have to embrace that as a
Hmm.
path that we walk down in order to get where we're going. Just you walk through the woods, you're gonna run into some sticker bushes and some tips,
Right. Right.
but you won't get to the other side of the woods if you don't. So
Right.
go after it.
So John, I appreciate you coming on today. Listen, based off of time, we're running short. So where can someone, whether they're adult or they're, or a kid at heart, whatever it might be, right? Or their children, where can they reach out to you to learn these lessons, to understand the art of communication, if you will, through economics? How can they learn this?
You can go to our website, middleschoolmba.com. It's
Hmm.
one word, middle school MBA. And where there's lots of resources there. Some of our stuff is free, some of it is paid.
Hmm.
Um, there's also a button there you can click to send me an email if there's something specific you'd like to investigate or talk about.
Mm.
Um, so
Hmm.
we have some really cool free resources,
Okay.
and then we have entire curriculum that you could. I mean, if you have kids in school somewhere, you can go to the principal and say, "Look, I want this for my kids."
Hmm.
And then not only does your kid get it, but all of their classmates get it as well. So
Mm.
that's another, and it costs you nothing, right? The school
Right.
pays for it. So it's a and it really ups the schools. We've had schools that I'm sorry, we're going kind
No,
of
no,
long, but
you good. You good.
we I mean, when we come into a school, it changes their dynamics. They
Hmm.
see something that's head and shoulders above what they're doing already,
Hmm.
and frequently some of the other programs start trying to up their game, and so it's just a big win-win for everybody.
Nice, nice. And as he stated, like he said, there's some things that are paid for, but you can see it right in the middle of the page. There's some free downloads. Download the curriculum today. So I encourage you, of course, that all the links will be in the show notes. So download your free curriculum overview today. I appreciate you, John, for coming on. But John, before I let you go, I gotta ask you my world famous question. My would you rather question. Would you rather choose three doors or a fork in the road?
Me, I want the fork in the road.
Okay. And why the
Want the
fork?
fork in the road because it keeps going somewhere, whereas you open the door and you get what you get. But I like traveling, so I'm going down the fork.
Nice, nice. And again, like I've said to any other guest, the parameters is based on you. So sometimes this type of question shows our limiting beliefs. What walls and parameters we put up for ourselves. So as you stated, your fork is going to be endless.
Yes.
So where the door, I mean, I had one guest who said she envisioned the doors being in a closed room, and she couldn't get out. So again, so what box did she put herself in that
Mhm.
situation? So it's just an open question. And so, we put ourselves in those spaces based off of our past, our friends, or whatever it might be.
Definitely, definitely. We're responsible for our futures, and
Mm-hmm.
we just grab the ball and go with it.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. Well, per your road, it's never going to end. You'll be on forever. But John, I thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Maurice. It's just been terrific.
Cool. And I thank y'all for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. And I will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?